What's happening, YouTube? Welcome to another video in my series of whether you should or shouldn't invest in certain Pokemon products. Before we get into things, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you're not subscribed already, please do. It would be very appreciated and it's very helpful for me. So I've spoken previously about VSTAR Universe, and I compared the set to the soon-to-be released Crown Zenith set, which is coming out in the end of January, so 3 or 4 weeks from now. And for me, at least, it was unanimous in that VSTAR Universe is, overall in terms of, cardstock quality, in terms of reprint and kind of print numbers, generally is just going to be the better set. For me, I see it being unanimous at some point to be, at least the best set of this era of Sword and Shield. And to be honest, I expect it to become unanimous or at least considered to be one of the best sets of the modern era alongside sets like Shiny Star V, potentially VMAX Climax, maybe Ultra Shiny GX. Those special sets obviously really stand out in Japan because the regular sets are usually then combined to make single sets in English. So there's a more one-to-one correspondence between the Japanese special sets and then the English releases. So what we've seen so far since the set was released in the 2nd of Jan, so it's obviously been close to a month since that release date. And what we've seen is a very, very steady kind of price between then and now. So at release, it was around about $90 to $100 per booster box, and we see the same thing now. And that's obviously going to be a combination of the demand for the set, but then also the fact that obviously it's Christmas period. People may not necessarily be focusing on Pokemon and picking up Pokemon product. Sure, if they're buying it as Christmas gifts, but I don't think that's going to be the case for everyone. So it's been a bit strange. They obviously did produce and print a decent amount of inventory, so that's probably what's helped the price not skyrocket as it has done with previous set releases. So obviously the Pokemon Company have done a decent job on that kind of thing. And what we are expecting is another reprint at some point. So the way, if you're unaware, the Japanese side of the Pokemon Company, how they do reprints and how they print sets is they initially start with a big release at the beginning, of course, and they kind of gauge the demand from that to then maybe taper or get, I guess, better set a marker for how they produce the reprint. They don't do what the English side of the company does, which is they kind of reprint for a long time, or they kind of spread reprints out over time. We've seen previously with sets like Evolutions that I imagine even now you'll find new kind of collection boxes within Pokemon TCG stores, and they might potentially still hold Evolution. I'm exaggerating certainly, but this was the case last year, and this was the case in 2020, and of course the set came out in 2016. What Japan normally do is they have that big release initially, and then, as I said, they gauge that interest from that big release to kind of identify how much they need to produce again for like a next drop. And it's uncommon that they do this more than once or more than twice. So they would have seen from obviously the release of VSTAR Universe that there was a significant amount of demand. They obviously printed a decent amount of product to begin with. So I imagine that drop once it comes, and again, I anticipate it comes between now and the release of Scarlet and Violet, which will be, of course, in around March. At least the TCG, obviously, game's completely different story. So I imagine over the next 3 months there will be another drop, and for me, I'm going to wait for that time because what we saw with some of the previous special sets that had come out, the high class sets, particularly something like VMAX Climax that came out, I think it was about $70 or $80 around release and kind of held a decent price. And then once that reprint came, it really pushed that price down, and you were able to pick up boxes for $50 and $60, which is exactly what I did. And if you are to look at the prices now, they are around about $100. I still think VSTAR Universe might be, they may still, and I'm hoping they do, that they do just print more and more than they did with VMAX Climax, at least enough to push that demand and push that price down, even with given the demand. Because for me, the kind of anticipation around this set is just unbelievable. The what I'm hearing from people, the noise, I think has far exceeded what I saw and what I heard with VMAX Climax and the other special sets that came before. So I'm hoping that they do managed to get a big release out, and at that time I'm hoping that just pushed the price down. anything below $60, I think would just be insanely good, and a great opportunity for pretty much anyone who was interested in kind of diving into that. Again, that's not guaranteed. You can't obviously guarantee anything, but there is likely going to be that reprint. But again, it just depends what they want to do. If they really want to focus on getting Scarlet and Violet out, which, I mean, I really do hope they focus on printing a lot more VSTAR Universe, because my expectations for Scarlet and Violet base are not necessarily that high. But we don't obviously know the numbers. They do a pretty good job usually, so we should expect that price to drop. And I would say if you could find anything below $70 or $60, having a great time. And personally, at that point, I'm going to probably put in a decent amount of money into that. So once that time comes, when that reprint comes, I think that's the time to pick up. Before then, at this point in time, paying $100 per booster box for to kind of keep it on your shelf, certainly not something I would do at this point in time, and I just don't think it's worthwhile. Sure, it's likely that the price is going to go up, but if we are expecting a reprint between now and the beginning of the next era, which obviously is what makes sense to myself and a lot of others, that's what I certainly would be waiting for. Onto this set more broadly, as I said, I think it will be the best modern set by far, obviously, unless something crazy comes in Scarlet and Violet. And because of that, the kind of expectation and that that demand is always going to stay high. If for those who are interested in specifically collecting Japanese sets, that's that one set people are going to be certainly attracted to and think, hey, here's the one I want to, whether it be invest or just kind of collect and complete the set. So far since the release, kind of moving away from talking about booster box prices, however, what I've seen with the single card prices is that the cards, the prices are pretty low. It's one strange thing that I really haven't managed to kind of get a really good grasp on, is the relationship between single card prices and booster box prices. So if anyone isn't aware, I am a data scientist. That's my day job alongside running a Pokemon store. And so, I'm used to, I'm not a data analyst, of course, but I do more kind of advanced statistics, machine learning, that kind of thing. And even still, I'd say I've got a pretty good grasp on statistics and an understanding of mathematics. But it's just this one thing I can't get my head around, is the relationship between the single card prices and booster box prices. I certainly have my ideas in regards to that. I just don't think it's as clear cut. There's a lot of fluctuation between, from set to set. There's a fair few things that I would say are uniform in that. And these are the obvious points, really, that when the set releases, obviously the card prices are high, and then within the first couple of weeks, the single card prices drop pretty substantially and pretty quickly, and then they eventually bottom out, and then they rise slightly as people move on to the next set, and then they fall and rise depending on reprints and so on and so forth. But what I've seen also at the same time is that a set will be reprinted, and the reprint will reduce the booster box price to some extent, and the single card prices actually increase. So it's a bit of a strange one, but from what I see with VSTAR Universe, and I'm sorry to have gone on such a tangent, I certainly think it's an interesting conversation for at least that video for another time, or at least that topic, sorry, for another time. But what I've seen with the single prices is that they have decreased since the set was released, and I genuinely think a lot of cards now, even if we are expecting a reprint, I'm not sure how much lower a lot of these prices can go. Looking at the prices of a lot of the more popular cards, I think there are about 3 or 4 cards that are over $100. I think that's including like the Reader card, the Elisa Sparkle, the Giratina Ultra, the gold one, the Arceus VSTAR gold card as well. Those are the kind of cards that are, over $100, significantly over $100. So it's not too many cards given the price of the booster box. So, for example, your chances of putting those in a booster box and you effectively making profit on that booster box is significantly low. Whereas a lot of the other cards in the set are at great prices, in my opinion. The kind of general, kind of trainer gallery-esque full art cards have, those kind of cards, in my opinion, are pretty much bottomed out at this point. Can't see them getting that much lower, even if there is a significant reprint overnight. Even things like the Charizard promos that we, of course, on the English side received as part of the Ultra Premium collection. I think even the most expensive card amongst those three is the I believe it's the one where the Charizard is like looking from above onto the Venusaur, and that's not even my favorite of those three promos, but even that's around a $50-$60 card at this point in time. And considering, of course, that it is a secret rare in a Japanese set relative to the promos that we have, I don't think that's a bad price at all. I believe the Mewtwo VSTAR Altar is only about $30-$40. So I think if you are someone who's interested in collecting the set, not necessarily just investing in sealed product, for example, which is myself, I'm hoping to have a complete set at some point. I honestly think now is a great time to be picking up those singles. I don't think a lot of them are going to be going down too much. So not a bad time at all to be doing that. So just to summarize, I guess, I would certainly at this point in time hold off from buying or at least investing in those booster boxes. I mean, if you just want to buy and open and just enjoy the box, yeah, why the hell not, right? Just go for it. But if that's something you're interested in, and I've been hearing a few questions, I've had people asking me questions on Instagram, for example, I would wait. Soon as that reprint comes out, see how that price is affected. If the price doesn't budge within the first week or so, then we're probably in a bit of trouble. And I think the price is probably going to fly from that point. But what I'm expecting is that the Pokemon Company do a great job of producing, at least on the Japanese side, enough to kind of meet that demand and get that price down to the $50, $60, $70 range, which I think would be insane and certainly something I'm looking out for. In terms of the singles, I would personally not hesitate going for those now and trying to fill out those sets. Of course, it's going to take some time anyway, and potentially with the reprint, the higher, some of the examples of the high price cards, the Readers, the Elixir Sparkles, those $100, $200 plus cards, likely maybe those, if any, are ones to drop in price, but realistically, a lot of the other cards in the set have pretty much bottomed out at this point. So, and if they're not, they will do pretty soon. So, that's kind of my summary of, whether you should or shouldn't invest in VSTAR Universe as a set. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you on the next one.